Hi everyone, I'm Jada Burt and this is In My Tracks. You know that feeling when a song comes on and it's so good that it feels like you're frozen in time? Well, that's what this podcast is all about, the songs that stopped me in my tracks. I chat with musicians about their process, challenges, and inspiration. And you discover your new favorite songs. This week on In My Tracks, we're talking to Emmaline, a jazz vocalist, violinist, and songwriter based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to In My Tracks. I'm your host, Jada Burt, and today I'm speaking with Emmaline.
Hey, Jada.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I'd love to know where and when your love of music began.
Yeah. So I grew up in a musical family. My dad is a jazz pianist and an arranger, and music was just always around. I very distinctly remember being 3 years old and seeing somebody playing violin in an orchestra and telling my parents that I wanted a violin. And they were like, oh, she's only 3. She probably doesn't really want to play violin right now. We'll just wait it out and see if she keeps asking. And then, sure enough, I kept asking and I got my first violin for my 4th birthday, and the rest was history.
That's amazing that at 3 years old you chose your destiny.
Yeah.
And I'd love to stick on this point about playing violin because I was able to see you perform live here in Cincinnati at Ludlow Garage, and it was just like mesmerizing seeing you like go from performing these amazing vocals to playing solos on your violin. How did you decide to put yourself in these extremely difficult positions in order to achieve the sound you have today?
Mm, that's such a good question. I started, like I said, since I started playing violin at 4, I was really in like the classical side of music for most of my musical upbringing. I started taking violin lessons immediately once I got my first violin, and I existed in the classical music world for most of my life. And I actually went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music to study violin performance. And it wasn't until I got there and I was really only about halfway through my first semester of my freshman year. And I pretty quickly realized that my passion for music had kind of shifted, and I was more interested in writing my own songs and learning how to incorporate my voice and my violin together in a way that isn't really seen super commonly in like contemporary music spaces. And that's kind of what spurred this whole momentum of me kind of combining my voice and my violin to create a sound that isn't really super traditionally heard in like pop or like even like jazz pop R&B spaces. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
You basically put yourself on the map as, hey, I'm Emmaline. Yes, I sing beautifully. I sing these incredible jazz vocals, but this violin is still here and I'm soloing like crazy, but also honoring the traditions of genres that have come before you. So,
Mhm.
who were some of those inspirations that helped you decide and really stay true to your decision to become a songwriter and keep the violin by your side?
Yeah. Um, I think my extremely wide range in musical taste is what I contribute a lot to just my overall sound because like we've said, like I started in the classical world and then I grew up with jazz in the house all of the time, like, just traditional jazz artists and all of the absolute icons in that world. And then I had a very strong love myself for like R&B and soul. I also really like alternative rock and alt pop. And so I think the fact that my genre net is so wide in what I listen to, because sometimes I'll be listening to music and I'll go from like Bill Evans and like John Coltrane to like Lana Del Rey to Mac Miller to Marvin Gaye. Like
Mhm.
it's so wide that I think my sound can't help but be a little other than what maybe other people are hearing. And I think that's definitely what I contribute to like having a little bit of a unique edge.
Absolutely. It comes through in all of your projects, and specifically your most recent EP, Retro Kind of Love. Where was your like mindset while creating the project and releasing it? Because that was the EP that you were touring when I was able to see you. And for a new listener, I was really blown away because you weren't a character of this 50s, 60s era. You were just yourself, but also putting a spin on what has come and still creating a new sound. I'd love to know how you kind of rein that part in where you're inspired by these very specific eras of music, but also creating this innovative work. You're naturally innovative because of what you do, but I'd love to know if there's anything you consistently think about, or if you're actually like more free and loose with your process.
I love that take, hearing how the music translated to you as an audience member. And that's definitely exactly what I was going for. I think with Retro Kind of Love, I wanted to really showcase myself as an instrumentalist, as a violinist, in addition to as a songwriter and a vocalist, because in the past, on my other two EPs that I've released, I was a little more subtle with the ways that I incorporated my violin, and it wasn't as much soloing as much as I would create like string pads underneath the vocals and kind of have a little bit of a almost like string quartet type of vibe just
Mhm.
kind of mixed into the background. But with retro, I really wanted to take a front seat as a soloist because I did go to I went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music and I changed my major to jazz studies, and I learned a lot about developing my voice and my vocabulary as a soloist and with improvising. And I've always felt very connected to improvisatory genres of music. And so I really wanted my violin to kind of take a front seat along with my voice. So I was writing with that in mind, leaving space for the violin to like take solos and play hooks. And I also was really wanting to kind of achieve this sound that I kind of started calling modern retro,
Mhm.
which is, I kind of like to describe it as something that is modern and created in, today's world, but that has this feeling of nostalgia because I am a really nostalgic person in general. And I think we all love hearing things and seeing things and experiencing things that remind us of the good memories that we've made in the past. And I wanted music that kind of evoked that feeling in the listener of nostalgia and feeling warm and comfortable and homey. And so that was kind of the whole direction of the project, was leave room for the violin to really speak and then kind of create this modern retro world where people can listen and be like, oh, this like feels very familiar and it feels homey, but also it feels completely fresh and new. That was kind of my direction with it.
Yes, and you achieved it.
Yay.
Yeah, hearing you speak about what you call modern retro, I've heard you speak about this before, and when I looked back at specifically the Retro Kind of Love EP, I was like, okay, yes, absolutely. That is exactly what she did with that, because I could tell the audience was, filled with people of all ages. I mean, we were enjoying ourselves. Me and my friend, we were in our late 20s. We saw people our grandparents' age and everywhere in between. And yeah, you're just able to capture all of these people by doing your own thing, and I think that is amazing to see in the music space.
I appreciate that.
Of
Thank
course,
you.
of course. So I'd love to know, because you are not new to this at all. You are true to this. You have been working for so long. How has your love of music and performing and, singing and playing violin, how has that all changed, like, since you decided that you were going to pursue it professionally, from the point that you started going to classes and in the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, and then to changing your major, and then to graduating and just continuing to stay on this path?
Yeah. I think my love for music has definitely taken different shapes over the course of time, but I think probably the most prevalent feeling that I've had just about music and what absolutely drew me into it from the very beginning was the ability to make people feel seen. Because when I think about um, artists that I initially felt incredibly inspired by as a songwriter, often what really drew me to them was their ability to convey emotions in song form that I had felt before, and I didn't know if anybody else had ever felt the same way. So, like, it's that moment when you hear a song and you're like, "Oh my god, they are describing exactly how I'm feeling right now, and I feel so seen." And what absolutely drew me to music to begin with was the ability to be seen as a listener, to hear somebody else describing emotions that I feel internally that maybe I was scared to express to other people, and being like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not alone. But then also being able to create the reverse effect as the musician and to help my listeners feel seen is what I think like the most powerful and coolest thing about music and being a musician is, if that makes sense.
I think that is a beautiful way to express that feeling of being seen as a listener, and then, making the decision to make others feel seen through your work. So I'd love to know, because we'll have plenty of lyrics to dig into with your song that we're discussing today. But before that, I'd love to know, when you're not like writing from your own perspective, writing from others' perspective in order to reach others that you might not have reached through your own experiences.
Yes, actually. This is something that I've been really exploring as a writer as of late. And I think lots of my listeners maybe don't realize that they have been growing with me as a songwriter because the very first song I ever wrote, I released. It was called Shy, and that was really the first song I ever wrote. And it was released, and hundreds of thousands of people have heard it. But that was my first song I ever wrote. So over the past 4 or 5 years, I've had the ability to really, really grow as a songwriter. And I think recently I'm finally kind of getting to a point as a writer where I'm really intrigued by the idea of writing not from my perspective. And specifically, I recently wrote a song that's going to be going on my next EP release that I just finished recording for fall of 2024. And it was specifically kind of a song that I wrote based on seeing one of my close friends kind of going through a really hard time in life. And it's kind of that moment when you're seeing somebody hurting and you're like, man, I wish I could help you, but I know this is your journey and you have to kind of find healing yourself. And kind of that moment of being like, I'm here for you, but this is your journey type of moment. And to this day, it is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written, but nobody's going to get to hear it until next fall.
We're ready. We're ready and
Yay.
excited. I think that is beautiful, because music that you create and release is already a gift to the world, but to actually like make it personal about somebody in your life, I think that is a true gift, probably the greatest gift that you can give someone. That's amazing. But going along with that point of where you are in your career now, recording bodies of work ahead of time and, getting everything ready, how does it feel to be at this point in your career where you're touring, recording, and writing constantly?
Yeah. I always think that, whenever I really think about the fact that I am, like, doing music full time and achieving my dreams in real time, it is, like, such a crazy thing to be able to say because I feel so lucky that everything has aligned. Like, my passion is what pays my bills, and I'm able to write and record my own music, and people seem to like it and listen to it. I mean, it really I feel so lucky that this is my life. I was just telling, my boyfriend and my guitarist earlier today, I was like, "Man, it's so cool to feel like if I could talk to myself in high school and tell myself all of the things that we're doing now, I would be over the moon." Because in high school, I really, really wanted to be an artist. I really loved the idea of writing songs and incorporating my voice into my music more, but I didn't really know how to make that happen.
Mhm.
And so I really stuck on that classical path and was really in high school, I was like pedal to the metal, practicing like sometimes between 6 and 8 hours a day on violin. So it was really intense. And I think I was super burnout. And all I wanted was to be able to learn to write my own songs and have people listen to them. So to be able to say now that I am like living my dream is something that is so special, and it's not lost on me that the only reason this is possible is because of my fans and the people that support me. It's all because of them that they believed in me from day one when I was just recording little Instagram videos and posting them on social media.
Mhm.
So it's really special to be where I'm at now. I'm nowhere where I want. This is not the end goal for me. I still feel that I'm very green and early in my career, but I still feel so lucky that like this is what I get to do, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Because seeing you grow, for me as listener, I just say like, yes, but more. More people. More people need to know her and more people need to see her. And I love the fact that you're not limiting yourself at all. Like you've come into this pretty much as far spread as possible. You're like, I do not only do one thing. I'm not a one trick pony.
Mm,
So yeah, it's iconic. I cannot wait to see where you end up and where you continue to go because it's very
very
exciting.
true.
Yep. Along the lines of that, I'd love to know how it felt making your debut on the big screen with Sweetwater. You did touch on this a
Mm.
little bit at the show, but I think it would be incredible to like hear about that because like we've been saying, like you're a versatile artist, but this is a different craft that you were entering. So yeah, how was that?
Oh my god, it was so crazy, and, like, even now, I told you I was talking to Ryan earlier today, and I was kind of reliving that moment of being able to see myself on the big screen for the first time
Mhm.
and, being a part of Sweetwater and being able to, contribute so much to the soundtrack. I think I was on 6 different songs on the soundtrack. I was able to collaborate with, like, multi Grammy award-winning guitarist and vocalist Gary Clark Jr. in the movie. I was able to act for the first time, and then going to LA and being at Warner Brothers Studios and seeing myself on the screen for the first time and hearing myself in, like, this big theater with my face on the screen. It was so surreal, and it was so special, and it was nothing. I never dreamed that I would be an actress or be in any kind of film, but the fact that that opportunity really just fell in my lap. The producer of the soundtrack had heard of me, and they were looking for somebody who could act and sing, and I had to submit my first self tape for audition for this film, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I just went for it anyway. And then to be offered the role and be at the first red carpet and see myself on the screen, I mean, it was so magical, and I think it's something that I absolutely will never forget. I'm so happy that I was able to be a part of that project, and that I was considered for that role. And yeah, I mean, just overall, like, really magical.
Yeah, seriously, like you were made for the role, so you were going to get it no matter what. There would have been a way. But that is incredible to hear that you are able to think of these moments fondly after they've happened, because I often hear, and I've even experienced this myself, where this big accomplishment will happen and just like that it's gone. It's gone in an instant. How do you keep those memories, keep those feelings outside of conversation? Like, how do you document all of these memories and also, like, make sure that they're top of mind when things get tough? How do you remember who you are and remember all the wonderful things that have happened?
Yeah. I think it's something that is something that I have had to practice really hard because I am such a doer and I'm such a like forward thinker and I want to do the next big thing and I want to see this growth and I want this to happen and I'm always thinking of like the next big thing, what's coming, what's coming. And I think really like about 2 years ago, I looked back at my life and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't appreciate anything good that ever happened because I was so focused on, okay, this is cool, but what's next? Okay, that's nice, but I'm ready for the next thing. What's the next big thing I can overcome? What's the next goal?" And I have had to learn that the destination of like reaching the next big goal, the destination is not really the memories are made from, because once you get to the destination, you're kinda like, "Oh, okay, that's cool, like, that's nice." Um, but if you're not enjoying, like, what's leading up to the win, then you're wasting your time, and so I think I finally got to the point where I've realized it's the journey, it's the showing up every day and working hard at something that you want to achieve, that is where the memories happen and not so much the big glittery end goal. And so I've really had to work hard at like being intentional about when I reach the win, celebrating that win in any way that I can, even
Hmm.
if it's just like going out to dinner and being like, I'm treating myself because I reached that goal today that I've been working towards. And I've been really working on celebrating my wins. So I started photo journaling and printing out photos of like big moments or fun moments, vacations. I just printed out actually a bunch of photos from when I was on set for Sweetwater and when we were at the premiere and my first red carpet. And I bought a bunch of like stickers that are like movie themed. And it's kind of like a little um, almost like a therapeutic moment where I actively try to sit down and make these little spreads of with my photos and my stickers to, I don't know, make something special of something that's happened and intentionally sit down and look at all of my memories in the pictures. And that has been a really big game changer for me and helped me kind of celebrate my wins in a little more of a tangible way.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's incredible advice just for people in general, but especially for artists. It's a long game. You know that.
yeah,
Um,
yes.
so that's something that we will definitely be taking notes on. But I love that. I love that you have this tangible way of looking at your wins now, especially now with social media and things like that. It's easy. You make your posts and things like that, but then just like that, it's pretty much gone with the wind unless you're constantly looking at your feed.
Right.
I find that you have one of the most consistent and innovative social media strategies out there for artists. How did you put that together? And also, how do you keep it going? Because you're not just posting a bunch of static images. Like you are recording videos and making arrangements and
Mm.
working with other artists. How do you keep the momentum going with that as well? I've asked you a lot of questions. I just realized that. But yeah, I'd love to jump on social
No.
media.
Yes, I love that, and I love this question because it's such a huge part of my job. I think as independent artists, I think we don't realize, or maybe some of us don't realize how absolutely important, and I hate to say content creation, but it really is content creation, and how important that is to A, our growth, and B, our connection with our fans. And I mean, really, my entire career started out with me posting videos of myself singing online.
Mhm.
So, like we said, I went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. I was a violin performance major, hated it, changed my major halfway through my freshman year. And when I changed my major to jazz studies, I was like, okay, if I really want to make a go at being an artist and being a recording and touring performing artist, people have to know I make music. I can't just keep all the music to myself. I need to try to get it out there somehow. And, I grew up in a family of musicians, but not people in the music business. Nobody who could, like, get me in spaces in front of a bunch of rich people who
Mhm.
would fund my entire career or anything. So I knew there needs to be listeners. And so that's how I met Ryan, who is now, he wears so many hats for me, but he is my guitarist. He mixes and masters all of my music. He's my tour manager. He's my recording engineer, producer, co writer. And I reached out to him. We didn't even know each other, but I reached out to him. We were in a class together. And I was like, hey, would you want to make a video with me for my social media of this song? And could we get together at this location? It would only take 30 minutes. And would you be down to record this song with me? And that one video that we made together then turned into, at this point, I'm sure we've probably made, I really want to say probably over 1,000 um, cover song, original song, whatever videos for social media. And it started all with that one first video. And then we really enjoyed working together, and it was fun to just get together and learn songs and record them. So we would record 3 to 4 videos a week, and I'd post them on my socials. And really, it didn't take very long before people started finding the videos and following me and asking me to release my music, and it all just snowballed from there. And since then, because I really got into this game via making live performance videos, that has been such a huge part of my business plan, is continuing on that path. Because let's be honest, as musicians, people want to hear us make music. They don't necessarily just want to see, you know, a photo of us, or like selfies. They followed us because they want to hear our music. And I think the more music we can offer our listeners and fans, the closer connection we have to them. And so my content creation has kind of taken new shapes, and especially now, because I did start out as pretty much exclusively only recording acoustic videos with just guitar and voice. And now I'm transitioning to a little bit more of a full band style of content creation,
Mhm.
because I perform with my band. All of my recorded music is with my band. And I've really tried to be intentional about incorporating my band into my videos now. And it's great. I think there have been times when I felt a little stale, and I was, we can all kind of get into these ruts of being like, oh, I don't want to make content, or I don't have any ideas. But I think what has been a huge game changer for me is incorporating my band and doing more intentional arrangements and things that are really fun, and putting a new spin on songs that everybody knows. That's been a huge game changer and kind of reigniting the fun in it, because let's be honest, I got into music because I was inspired by it and it was fun. And I think the audience can tell if we're not connecting with the music we're putting out, or if we're not connecting with the content we're releasing, there's a disconnect with the listener too. And so for me, kind of switching and intentionally incorporating my band has been a huge game changer, and kind of reignited my passion for making live videos too.
Yes, my goodness. You made a fantastic point about that connection with the audience. Truly, though, if you're not having fun, the audience absolutely will not be having fun and will not
Yeah.
stay. I can see, just as a listener and then as somebody who saw you perform live, that, okay, she not only enjoys what she's doing, but this band that she is performing with is able to perform at their best. She's able to perform at her best. How do you interact with the other members in your band when it comes to bringing these new songs, or new cover songs, and making them your own? Because Sunny was an absolute standout live and in your recorded version on your EP, Retro Kind of Love.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I am always on the lookout for songs that I feel I have something to add to. And so often I feel like some people feel that if you're going to cover a song or a song that's particularly iconic, that you have to stay very true to the original version and that it needs to sound very similar and or identical to the original recorded version. And something that I have realized as as my musical journey has developed is that I have a super huge passion for taking songs that everybody knows and then turning them on their heads and completely turning the song into something very different than what it was originally recorded as. And that kind of was what yielded my very first, like, quote unquote, viral video. I think it was probably like circa 2018 or something like that. Ryan and I did an acoustic cover of Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time. And we completely turned it on its head. We slowed it way down and we kind of played it with like a swing feel. So it was like a little jazzy and like very smoky, sultry. And this video like blew up online and it was like over 50 million views. And that I think was like my first experience of being like, oh, people are actually open to hearing songs they know in a new way. And that sparked like a whole new passion of mine. And so with Sunny, I was kind of building this concept for the Retro Kind of Love EP where it was really all the entire project was really about hope and hope that your current situation is not going to be your reality forever. And if you're in a little bit of a tough spot or if you're dealing with something really dark, it can sometimes feel like, oh, this is just how it's always going to be. But there's always hope for things to turn around. And I really wanted to add a cover song to the record. And when I was thinking, what songs kind of contain this idea of hope and things getting better? And suddenly the song Sunny came into my mind. And the lyrics are so, I mean, I'm pretty sure the original writer wrote that song about a close friend. I think a close friend had died or something. So the entire song was very much written with the idea of hope, needing things to get better. And I really wanted to put a new spin on it. And I decided to kind of go in a completely different direction because the original version of Sunny is like, I would consider it a little more up tempo and a little more like hopeful, major sounding. And I wanted to make it sound really dark and brooding and soulful, but like a little sultry and kind of put new meaning to the words that were already very poignant. And that is like one of my favorite arrangements to play live now because it's just so much fun.
Hearing your intentions behind choosing it and deconstructing it really shows how it came across to me as a listener, because wow, I was like, wait a minute, you made that song your own, and I just love that.
I'm so glad.
And so thinking about yourself as a performer and writer, if you could actually have this kind of power in the world, like if you could choose the first song that a listener heard, which one would it be?
I think if I could choose the first song that a listener heard from things that have already been released, I might choose the first single that I dropped off of Retro Kind of Love. It's called These Are the Memories. And I think that song is, I think it really embodies a lot of just my vibe in general. It's very easy listening and it's very like vibey, like the type of song that you just like turn on and like drive down the country roads on a sunny day type of vibe. And it's also like some of my favorite very visual lyricism that I've ever written. I feel like it's very like world painting and poetic. So I feel like maybe I would choose that one as a first time listen just for people to get kind of grasp what my music is, and then they can go from there.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful choice. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the conversation with Emmaline so far. This is the song that stopped me in my tracks. Here's First Time by Emmaline.
The clouds have shifted, the storm is past, my pain is lifted, my wounds have scabbed, and all of the sadness that once lived inside is melting away as the sun sets on the freeway. Now all I see are blue skies, blue skies, blue skies in front of me. And I can see a new day, a new way, a new me. Feels like it's the first time in my life that I am free. Feels like it's the first time in my life that the sun is shining on me. Stuck in the shadows for so long, it's like I'm falling in love for the very first time, for the very first time. Depressed and anxious, losing the fight, self-medicating just to get by. 'Cause all of the baggage weighing me down, it was never mine to hold. All I had to do was let go. Now all I see are blue skies, blue skies, blue skies in front of me. And I can see a new day, a new way, a new me. Feels like it's the first time in my life that I am free. Feels like it's the first time in my life that the sun is shining on me. Stuck in the shadows for so long, it's like I'm falling in love for the very first time, for the very first time.
Okay, so I chose your song First Time. It was an absolute standout for me on your EP. Hearing it live was an absolute thrill, and I knew I absolutely wanted to learn more about it. So what inspired you to write the song?
Yeah. I'm so happy that First Time was a standout for you because I think it's my favorite song on the EP too. And what inspired it was I was really going through a really rough patch in my life around mid 2020. And of course, the pandemic and all of that craziness really, really negatively affected all of us. And um, me as a performer and a musician, I was basically out of a job. I was not able to work. I was making all of my money at that point by performing live, and I wasn't able to do that, obviously. And I kind of touched on this earlier, but I'm very much a workaholic. I always have been. I'm a checklist maker. I'm a doer. I work from like the moment I wake up until I lay my head on my pillow. And I love working. I love achieving things. But I think sometimes in the past, I was kind of using my work as escapism. And then when I suddenly wasn't working for pretty much like a year and a half at a time at that point, um, I was kind of forced to confront a lot of darkness that I had been kind of trying to run from, I think. And I was really in the thick of it. I was trying to work through a lot of trauma that I had just buried and buried and buried and buried, and it was all coming up. And I cannot lie to you when I was saying I was so overwhelmed with just like feeling so triggered, feeling so overwhelmed, so dark. Like I couldn't even leave my house for like weeks at a time. I was doing very terrible. And I was really, really trying to heal in the best way possible. I started working with a therapist and I was really in the thick of it. And I really needed hope. I was kind of at that point where I could not see how my life was ever going to get better. I was like, "Oh my god, this is my reality. This is the only way I'm ever going to feel is overwhelmed and anxious and triggered and dark, and I'm never going to escape from these things that have happened to me. How am I ever going to be normal? Am I crazy?" And I needed hope. I needed something that let me know that I was going to come out on the other side of this. And after months and months of like really, really, um, I would say almost obsessive, like shadow work, like really, I was not able to even focus on anything else in my life other than healing. I needed to heal. And after months and months of like working on getting myself back to a good place, I woke up one morning and I had the most surreal feeling of like all of this weight and this baggage that had just been literally keeping me like unable to even leave my house, barely able to even like function as a normal human. It felt like all of this weight had been lifted. And I finally could see that it was possible for me to heal and it would be possible for me to move on and things were going to get better. And I sat down almost immediately after like realizing, oh my god, like what I'm feeling is hope. Right now what I'm feeling is hope that things are getting better for me. And I sat down and these words just like immediately started coming out of me. It was every once in a while as a songwriter, I feel like you get these kind of almost subliminal like messages and like these crazy moments where you're so tapped in to like source to the source of wherever our creativity comes from. You're so tapped into it that like it basically creates itself. And that's how I felt about this song. And still to this moment, like when I perform that song, when I hear it, when I'm living my life and I kind of get a flashback to this moment of writing it, It almost makes me emotional still to this day, like years after actually writing it and having that experience, because it was just so powerful. So I'm glad to hear that that translated to you as a listener, because it feels it's one of my favorite songs for me too.
Yes. First, I just want to thank you for sharing all of that because that was deeply personal. So thank you for
Mm,
that. Um, but going back to how you were feeling during that time, I want to know, just because you were very transparent in your song. How did you get to that point though, where you decided, okay, like this is like enough is enough. This isn't how, even though I cannot see my life being any different than what it is right now, how did you decide, okay, I'm contacting a therapist? And then not only that, but continuing with it and then actually putting in the work for all of that time. What got you there and what kept you going during that time when you weren't able to not only perform, but also enjoy this craft that you've been working on your entire life?
yeah. I think I'm going to be honest. I think I had gotten to such a low point. I realized that there was no way of me avoiding confronting these issues anymore. I had gotten so, I was so completely overwhelmed with this trauma and this darkness that I kind of had no other choice other than to be like, I'm contacting a therapist, because there is no way. I realized there is no way I can push this down anymore. I've pushed this down for years. I've avoided this for years. I've worked myself into the ground and distracted myself, and I've been go, 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 go. And I am not able to silence this anymore. So, silencing it and pushing it down, that was the only way I knew how to cope with my trauma. And I realized that was no longer going to work for me. So I needed to figure out another way to cope with it, to confront it, to deal with it, and then set it down and move on with my life. And the only thing I knew to do in that moment was get a therapist immediately. And I'm so glad I did, because I did not have the tools to confront what I was dealing with internally. I had no tools. I did not know. It's so crazy to think like this was happening really only 3 years ago, but as a person, I feel so different now because of all the work I really out of necessity had to do to get better, and it just feels worlds away from me at this point, because my life feels so much better, and I was finally able to set it down. I was able to set the past down and move on, and I think in turn, that gave me the ability to speak a lot more openly. In the past, I think it's always so interesting, because you said earlier, you were like, "Oh, thank you for being so transparent." And that is not something that anybody would have ever said about me maybe 3 years ago. I historically have been very close to the chest, not very open. I've not been super comfortable with being vulnerable, and so first time I feel was really my the first song that I was able to be like unapologetically vulnerable, and I think I was able for the first time to show weakness. I think I've historically have been very worried of like anybody sensing any weakness in me. I always wanted to feel like I was always put together and I was always happy and everything was always going right for me. And I'm Emmaline, there's nothing wrong with me. And like you should look up to me, and I have it all together. And I think this was the first song that I was comfortable being like, I don't have it all together. Here's when I didn't have it all together and I thought I was going to die. Like I was in such a terrible place. And now to be able to share with the listener, like I was doing terrible and there was hope for me. And I saw that things could get better. And now I feel so much freer. It's such a gift to be able to be vulnerable. And I'm happy that I've finally gotten to that point, because that is not something I would have been comfortable sharing prior to doing a lot of the work that I did in therapy and just with my own personal self, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Because my goodness, you really did put in the work. And you brought up the point that it's only been 3 years since you were at that stage in your life. And you're doing so much better as you've expressed and as we can see. But something I would like to know is how, kind of on a daily basis, weekly basis, keep yourself well. Because during that time, the world was shut down, things like that. Do you have a way of making sure that you are still okay when you're not going 90 miles per hour or when you could potentially not be going 90 miles per hour, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Oh, of course. Yeah. I think what has been a massive game changer for me is intentionally slowing down and intentionally giving myself pockets throughout the day and routines that force myself to slow down and be present in my body and be present with what's going on around me. I think like a lot of habits that I've taken on, like I started very religiously doing a yoga practice every single day in the morning. That all started in 2020. That was super revolutionary to me to be able to quiet my mind and anxiety. Also, I'm a big believer in taking walks and like stopping everything you're doing and just take a walk, and you'll feel so much better if you just take 10 minutes to yourself and take a walk, come back, get back to work, immediately feeling refreshed. I also really try to cap myself, like in the evenings, I try to cap myself before I go to bed at least a couple hours to give to myself to do whatever I want. I'm a big reader and I love journaling, writing my thoughts down. I really am a huge believer in listening to guided affirmations and meditations. So I've kind of had to source habits and almost completely reshape my days. And there were times when I was doing this out of necessity because if I was not taking time to slow down, I was becoming so overwhelmed and so anxious, and I was not able to function without these habits. And now that, I'm in a much healthier place, I'm feeling so much better. I've really learned a lot about myself and gathered a lot of tools to navigate just generally having anxiety and being a human. But I think these habits have stuck around because they make me feel so much better. Just taking some time to myself, even if it's like 30 minutes in the afternoon to just take a break and take a walk and listen to some kind of guided affirmation, and how much better I feel when doing that is kind of why I've stuck to these practices.
Yes, I love that you have a plan. Like you have these activities that you can do on a daily basis, a weekly basis that are absolutely tangible, just things that make you feel well and keep you going.
Yeah,
Because yeah, we've seen others crash and burn when it gets to be too much and when it gets to be too quiet. So
sure.
I'm happy to hear that. You touched on, making others feel seen. You've also touched on how being transparent and being vulnerable not only helps you, but it helps others. But when you were writing the song, you said that it almost wrote itself. Who do you exactly hope to reach with this song when it comes to your current fans and then new listeners?
Yeah. I think songs somehow find their way to the people that need them, because songs have found their way to me that I needed in the moment that I needed them. And I think this song has kind of taken on a life of its own, and it's found the listeners that need it when they need it and met them where they were. And the stories that I've heard from people that really connected with the song have been so incredibly encouraging to me because, like I said earlier, I mean, I think what drew me to music initially was the ability to be seen and to help others feel seen. And to be able to offer that gift of being seen to somebody and to feel seen, that like, no, you're not crazy for feeling this way. You're not the only one that's ever felt this way. And you're not always going to feel this way. And to be able to offer that gift to somebody via music is like really the only thing I could ever ask for, because that's what drew me to songwriting and using my voice to begin with. So that's what I hope people gather from the song. I hope it makes somebody feel seen, because isn't that really all we want at the end of the day, is to feel understood, you know?
Absolutely. And with you having that intention, it's absolutely happening. You already know that because you're being constantly told that. And I will scream it from the rooftops. You're doing it.
I'm so glad.
Yes. So, in closing, we've had an incredible conversation. Like, it's gone in directions that I'm very happy that it did, but I had no idea that it would.
Yes.
Because you like came in, as you said, willing to be transparent and vulnerable because of the work you've done behind the scenes. And you have touched on this, but if you had the opportunity to pull like young Emmaline aside while she was really, looking out at the world and saying, yes, I am going to pursue a career in music, what would you say?
Oh my word. I would say that it's all possible, because I think as a young musician who I wanted nothing else other than to be able to release my own music. And I wanted nothing else other than to learn to write my own songs. I remember even when I was a little kid, I would like write lyrics and like try to perform them for my parents and stuff. And I think I had lots of voices telling me that it wasn't possible, and that, there are so many songwriters in the world and you might just end up being a starving artist, or, you're so good at just playing violin, you should just stick with that. And I think if I could tell myself one thing, I would say it's all possible, because I did not have many people telling me that it was possible, that being an artist was possible. I knew it was possible for me to play violin really well, but I did not know that it would be possible for me to write my own songs and release my own songs and go on tour and have people come to see my shows that care about my songs. And to give myself that encouragement to just go for it, because it's all possible. And, anybody that's listening, I truly believe that if you really want something, I am such a believer. And if you really want something in your life, it is possible for you. If you want to be a full-time musician, that is possible for you. If you are willing to dedicate yourself and go for it and not give up no matter what, it's all possible. That's it. All you have to do is want it, work for it, and it will happen. I really believe that literally anybody can achieve whatever they put their mind to, if you just really go for it,
Yes. My goodness. I think that is so true. You made that point of saying people don't often believe that you can make a career in music, performing your songs, writing your songs, and all of that. And they put these limiting beliefs on young people who really know in their hearts what they want to do and can see it happening for other people. And that absolutely needs to stop. But I am so happy that you got through all of that and knew in your heart, yes, I'm meant to do this. And not
Right.
only am I going to do it, I'm going to succeed and thrive. And yeah, and I love that you are able to, at this point in your career, say to other people, you can do it too, it's possible. That's just, that's what it's all about. I love it.
Yeah.
And so you've mentioned an EP that's coming out in the fall of 2024. I am excited about that.
Yeah.
What else are you excited to promote?
Oh my goodness. I have so many things going on right now. This has been such a crazy year. And first of all, just things happening. Like I was in my first movie, I released my third EP. So much has happened this year, but also so much has happened behind the scenes that I've been working on. So I have been in the works of three different bodies of works. They're all EPs. And I teased on my story on Instagram yesterday that I just finished and uploaded for release one of the three EPs that I'm working on. And in a couple days, I'll be announcing the first single that's coming on the next EP. And then in 2024, I have plans for a spring EP drop and then a fall EP drop. Both of them are very different projects. So I'm super excited to kind of give people a very wide range of music to consume in 2024 because it's going to be a really wide net. And yeah, I'm going on tour, my last tour of the year. I'm leaving next week. My first show is on November 2nd. It's going to be a really fun next couple months, I think. So I'm just really excited to release a bunch of new music for everybody to listen to because I've been working hard. I've been working hard on it. So I'm ready for people to listen to it.
Not one, not two, three. 3 EPs.
Exactly.
You said you like to work hard, but my goodness. You're not, this is not a game. I am so excited to listen and see you perform live again. I can't understate it. You put on a show. I am so excited to listen to everything you have coming out. And we have discussed social media quite a lot, but you also have a website. Where can people find you?
Yes, I am just about everywhere on all music sites. If you want to listen to my music, I'm on all music streaming and downloading platforms. If you just look up Emmaline, Emmaline. And my socials are all Emmaline official, really easy, straight to the point. We definitely talked about how much I use socials. I'm very active on my socials, so give me a follow because I post a lot.
Absolutely. You will see Emmaline on your feed. So
yes, you will.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not.
They will love it. But yes.
Good.
Yes, follow her, stream her music, buy her music, go see her on tour, and really enjoy the world of Emmaline because she is here to stay. Thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me. You are a real gem, and I am excited to continue to watch your career and be a fan.
Thank you so much, Jada. This was really fun.
Thank you for listening to In My Tracks. The show was created and produced by me, your host and friend, Jada Burt. And shout out to Play Audio Agency for recording, editing, and producing the show, and for composing the original theme music you are currently jamming out to. Please rate, review, and follow In My Tracks everywhere you listen, including Spotify, where I curate playlists that pair with each episode. Did you hear a song that stopped you in your tracks? Share it with me. DM me on Instagram at InMyTracksPod, because music is meant to be shared. See you next time.